Hello and welcome to another episode of the 0 to 1 show, where we dive into the Filecoin ecosystem, giving you everything you need to know to get started, get ramped up, or perhaps convince you to join the Filecoin ecosystem as a storage provider. Today with me, as always, is my esteemed co-host, Mr. Bob Dubois. Bob, how are we doing today?
Very good, very good. Happy to be on the show again, and happy to have Paul on the show, who I talked to a while back, and I remember our first conversation till this date. So yeah.
Yes, we have a very special guest for you all today, Mr. Paul Imre, coming all the way from the UK. For those of you who haven't met Paul, Paul has been lurking and stalking the Filecoin ecosystem. I think, Paul, what I would say about you is you've had more patience entering the ecosystem than anyone else I've seen. And you've been collecting information, testing, trying, learning. And so that's why I'm so excited to have you on the show today, because I feel that that tide is changing for you. First and foremost, welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself to everyone who may not know you so far in the community, and tell us a little bit about your journey into Filecoin to date.
Okay, thank you, Porter, and thank you, Bob. So I need to correct you. I haven't been stalking Filecoin. I've actually been stalking Stu Berman. So anyone who's starting out in the community, GitHub, Slack, wherever you go, you will find nuggets and breadcrumbs laid out and left by Stu Berman. I would drink that guy's bathwater, seriously. Yeah. So out of everyone, I have found him to be the most helpful, and it was an absolute delight to meet him at Vegas. And also a Danish
I
friend.
couldn't think of a better way to start my day, start the show, than with some good old-fashioned Stu Berman hype. So love it, Paul.
Yeah, but not to forget our Danish friends as well up in Denmark. So I think the guys within Picnic and the wider community, they've done a lot, and I need to acknowledge that. Yeah, I wouldn't be here without them. So in terms of the background, I started out as a sys administrator many moons ago, went into Web 2, started researching AI, then into privacy. And as I was researching privacy, came across Filecoin. I thought, what's that all about? And haven't looked back since. Did some basic stuff, got a miner going. And then I thought, well, I need to find out some more. Who can I contact? Did a bit of research, and out came Mr. Porter's name. So that was it, that conversation. And then Porter suggested going over to Vegas. We did that. So it's all been great. So that's the very brief, short history.
Paul, you've been in the IT services storage game for much longer than just your time with Filecoin. When did you get started? What have you been doing for the past couple of decades?
Yeah, so as I said, I started out working for a company in California installing Unix-based, not Linux, Unix-based systems. So just integrating industrial end machinery. Did that in the field for a few years, and that's at the point that the internet really started out. You have things like SGML, HTML, PDFs come into fruition. That eventually led me into hosting, working in data centers, and from there I moved into Web 2 development, design, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that's a very short, brief, potted history.
So going back, I know you touched on it, tell me more about what you were trying to solve from a privacy perspective that you felt was interesting, that you felt Filecoin could be a solution for.
Okay, so I'm really interested in AI. We've actively researched, held meetings, written blog posts, gone to many, many meetings. And the thing that worried me most was the privacy side, people taking control of your data and then you losing control of it. So this idea of immutability, your data not changing, and then the new developments that are coming down the road, such as compute over data, and some of the more interesting privacy concepts from Juan's triangle. You can scale your compute into performance or go more towards privacy, that kind of stuff. So I just thought that we were seeing the foundational levels for something amazing, something brilliant. something to really look forward to and be a part of. Yeah, the world is literally changing, and here we all are. We're building that new future.
Yeah. So I did say you've been lurking, but you've been lurking in the community, and you're a great attendee of calls. I think you're one of the more interesting and vigorous consumers of information. What are some of the big takeaways that you've had from kind of engaging or listening from the community, whether it's from ESPA, some of the weekly calls, or just some of the conversations you've had, perhaps with Bob, perhaps with others?
Yeah, I would say Slack is your best friend. Unfortunately, the search mechanism within Slack is pretty appalling. And perhaps with the new, ChatGPT type stuff, if that data can be surfaced into those kind of tools, things will get better. Typically, I would say 9.5 times out of 10, your answer will be in Slack. Now, it may not be if you're on the latest release, there's some new gizmo widget in the latest version of Boost or Lotus, and you may be stuck. I think if you then reach out into the community, you will get an answer. You may not get an answer instantly, but you will get an answer. Other than that, I just think it's great that these calls are occurring, because you basically find out who the people are hiding on Slack. You find out the personalities, what they're into, and you get an opportunity to meet them. So if you go to ESPA, possibly the best thing about ESPA is putting faces to names. So, for example, I saw a lot of posts from Magic. I had no idea who this person was, but when I met him in Vegas, it was great. You can then have one-to-one conversations, and then in the future, when you're exchanging messages, the level, the quality goes up, because you've met them, and they can put a face to a name as well. So it's really worthwhile going to Vegas, I would say.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. My favorite thing about this community is just how passionate everyone is, how open everyone is. And you can find yourself going down rabbit holes or having conversations that you wouldn't have dreamed possible when you're sitting at home in your basement or in an office or in a data center. It's that level of engagement. And once you get to see and meet these people firsthand, that's where I find that people truly transform their view of the community and and what they're willing to do in Filecoin. And that's why events that we have around the world are so important to attend if you can make it. So, Paul, when we started planning this call, you have a very unique point of view that I think represents a sea change within the Filecoin community. And I think, we titled this session, Getting the Message Out. And so with that being said, I'm curious to hear more firsthand from you. I know Bob is as well, on exactly what you have, what you've been seeing in Filecoin since you started.
Okay, thank you. So what I want to do here is basically challenge SPs. And that means people who generally want to be SPs, but also the community around the SPs. So that means people like Porter, Bob, Stu, all those people at Picnic. I want to challenge you. When I've heard a couple of things on various calls, various forums, where people have said, you can't sell Filecoin, I'm thinking, why on earth would people say that? You can't sell it? What are you talking about? Oh, it's not ready. You can't do retrievals. People will find examples of why you can't sell Filecoin. And the second thing I want to challenge the group, the community on is, why are people hiding? Now, I went through a process of trying to connect up with a number of SPs, and I found it almost impossible. So I think there's a couple of people on the call that I'm connected with. James is one of them. And the only reason I was able to connect with him is because he's on the calls. But other SPs within the community, within the UK, I don't know who they are. I don't know how to connect with them. So I want to challenge those two things. Okay, so let me tell you a little story. I started my career at the age of 22, going over to the US, working for a Californian company full of Boeing and NASA people. These people were working on lasers and optics, and they were doing some incredible stuff. So I joined the company, went over there, had some training, and they said to me, Paul, we want you to go over to France. We want you to go there for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. So there I was, a young 22-year-old over in the middle of France, couldn't speak French, and I stayed there for 8 years, had 3 kids, got married. That was my 2 weeks that turned into 8 years. Now, what's really interesting about this story is, for the first 2 years, I was on this customer site who understood their world was changing. It was at the time of the Macintoshes entering the business community, and they knew that their world was going to change. So I would turn up on site and I'd get alpha software, beta software, stuff wouldn't wake, stuff would break, production runs would be halted. I'd be hauled in front of the CEO. I had managers shout at me. I'd be phoning up California late at night, begging them to fix stuff. And eventually I came to the conclusion that what I was experiencing was not a challenging customer, but a unique type of customer, And I would call that an early adopter. So if we can have that first graphic, please. Now, we have the innovators and the early adopters. So there are people out there right now who will buy whatever you've got because they can see the world is changing. They know we're going from Web 2 to Web 3. They will throw their money into coins. They are just taking all kinds of risk. We don't have to package up, put nice marketing messages, hide things. We don't need to do any of that because that's what they want. They want to get under the hood. They want to understand your product. They want to test it. It's going to hurt. They're going to lose time, money, and energy, but they're going to learn. More important than that for us, they're going to contribute back to the community. So their learning is going to come back to us. It's going to help improve the product. Now, all of you on this call are innovators and early adopters. And here's the news. It's not going to stop. We're not going to get to a point of a stable Filecoin. We've got FVM. We've got compute over data. We're going to build up the layers. So this notion of having a fixed final product, shrink wrap product, it's not going to happen. This is open source stuff. There's always going to be bugs. There's always going to be things that don't work quite right. But the world is changing. It's a revolution. All you have to do is look back and see how far we've come. So this stuff works. And I am telling you right now, you can sell this stuff. So if we can have the next graphic, please. So I want to introduce this notion of a sneezer. This is a well understood marketing concept. There are people out there who will take your ideas, who will test them to destruction, and they'll tell everyone. Can you bring up the next graphic, please? So these people, they have an engagement, an influence. They network, they talk to people. They will take your message out far and wide. And that's exactly what I experienced in France all those years ago. When people understand that this is new, this is going to change the way we do everything, they will put their utmost in. So when people say you can't sell, I'm telling you, you can. All you have to do is find these sneezers and you find these early adopters and innovators. So next slide, please. Right, so this is my experience. That there's 3,000, 4,000 SPs around the world. They're hidden. You can't find them. You might find them listed on a block explorer. You don't know who they are. You don't know where their names are. You don't know where they're located. You don't know if they're SOC 2 compliant. Who are these people? Why are they hiding? It's just not possible for us to continue as a community to be hidden. Yes, I get the understanding that you might have certain business relationships that need to be hidden. But if we're coming from a mining community where we're just generating Filecoins, I get why you might want to be hidden. But if you want to go out and start selling, you have to communicate to the market. You have to find your customers. You cannot stay hidden. Next graphic, please. Now, this graphic here comes from a show in Amsterdam, and I probably saw 30, maybe 40 of these types of graphics. I then attended an AI show. Again, I saw this kind of graphic. And so what's happening in the general business community is that people are trying to link up their data from different data sources, from S3, from Azure, from Google, from wherever. So why aren't they also doing it from IPFS, from Filecoin? Why aren't they doing it? And the answer is, it's because we're all hiding. There is no reason for us to hide. We need to make our services available so that the ordinary markets, the markets that we don't normally bump into, can store their data safely with the immutability and bring it back into their tools and generate the AI. So a community that would understand what we do, an AI community, doesn't even know about us. Yeah. Why? It's because we're hidden. Yeah. Can you imagine a network of McDonald's without their sign, their lights written on? Okay. So the next one, I'm going to talk about what we need to do about this, the need for communication. So the first graphic, please. So what we have here is Filecoin. It's an amazing product. There's some alchemy. There's some magic. We even have a developer called Magic in the community. Yeah. So we're almost like hidden monks. We've got this good stuff. There's a fantastic story to be told. Yet if we go out into the market, go out into the wider world, no one knows about us. Next graphic, please. So there's a barrier. There's some inability for us to reach out into the market. People don't know about us. Next graphic, please. So what I'm going to tell you now is, see these, and the next one that follows on, please. If we look at the market right now, all those people in red, if they knew about you, if they could reach you, they would buy from you right now, this instant. Yeah, they would buy. This is a well-known marketing concept. You have customers that have already bought, customers who are ready to buy now, and customers in the future. So those people are out there right now. They would buy from you. They would give you fiat. They can't because they don't know about you, because you are hidden. The community isn't engaging. It's not communicating. And those question marks, they represent people who, if they knew about you, might think about you, and they might become early adopters. So what we need to do, as this final little graphic here says, is we need to build a bridge. And what is that bridge? It's communication. All you need to do is follow the Twitter account of Filecoin and look at the Distora stuff. The stuff is there. It's there for you to comment on, to share, and just get the message out there, to switch on the lights, to open up the doors to people who could potentially work with you. Now, we're not doing it. Yeah, why not? I'm going to challenge you by the end of this call for you to go away and to say, right, what can I do to open up my business so that people find out about me? Okay, so can we go on to the next one, please? So there's this notion of the network effect. Yeah. So again, if you go back to this idea of McDonald's, imagine there are 4,000 McDonald's around the planet. In the case of Filecoin, we've got these amazing nodes everywhere, but the lights are off. Not only are the lights off, you can't even open the doors. You can't even go in there and find out the prices. Yeah, crazy. So what we need to do is switch on the lights, start advertising our prices. So if you go to McDonald's in South Korea, you know the brand, you know what's possible, so that when you're over in the US, you find the same kind of thing, right? So the efforts of one node or one SP or one member in the community can impact people in another part of the world. Yeah. So it's up for us to switch on the lights, engage with the markets, yeah, and find those sneezers and start selling the product. So next one, please. So there is no time to hide. Yeah. And then next one, please. So I just wanted to give you some takeaway. Let's take down our hoods. Let's show our faces. Yes, you can sell. You can sell right now. Next one, please. We are the early adopters, right? So those customers are like us. We don't have to sell to them. You know, they are exactly like us. Next one, please. We need to build a bridge. So you guys should be on Twitter, Facebook. Update your profiles. Yeah, make yourselves findable. Share the stuff from Protocol Labs and Distora. Next one, please. And switch on the lights. Let's get on the back of the network effect. So that was it, really. So I just wanted to challenge the community to stop hiding and to get out there. All the resources are there if only we would use them together. So I think I'll hand back to you, Porter. I know there are some questions.
Yeah. Let's say everyone on this call says, Paul, you're absolutely right. I'm going to do these 4 things starting today. And we actually get good uptake. Talk to me about like where we could be as a community 1 year from now, 3 years from now.
Yeah,
what does it look to you?
I think it's just a basic mathematical concept. Once you start switching on nodes, yeah, and you get the various connections, we can very, very quickly move in the market. Yeah. So the problem we have at the moment is if you go to any major show, they don't know who you are. Yeah. So this crypto stuff, it's teenagers, yeah, gambling. Yeah. So there's a perception that we need to break through. We need to speak in a way that is relevant to them. So data preservation, immutability, that kind of stuff, AI. So we need to speak the language of our end users so that we can actually build solutions that are adaptable to our customers. Yeah. So I think the potential is unbelievable. When you look at the rates of growth in data, it doubles every 2 years. We have to be really, really dumb for this to fail, in my opinion.
You know, one of the things I want to talk about, Paul, is dogfooding. You know, you talk about switching on the lights, and I think it would be great for you to share some of the things that you're doing to contribute to switching on the lights.
Okay, so very, very simply, I've been on to the ESPA sales and marketing channel, and I've been trying to channel that community because they're enterprise focused. Yeah. So if I give you an example, if I have a technical question, I can go onto Slack and I'll find 10 people to help me. If I have a marketing question or a sales question, it's like a dead zone. Yeah. And I think we can, as a community, come together, bring that ethos of open source collaboration, working together, and start solving some of these marketing type problems. Yeah, so how do we sell this product? What works? What works in one territory may not work in another territory. Yeah, you know, why are we struggling trying to find customers, find messaging when someone else has already tested ideas and it already works for them? Why aren't we sharing that amongst ourselves? Yeah. So I think there's a level of work that we can do together in the community on the sales and marketing side.
Hey,
So
Bob,
that's my little coded message, not very well coded, not subtle, to the ESPA guys and maybe even our Asian friends as well, the SPA. Yeah.
Hey, Bob, question for you. Have you come up on your 1-year anniversary in Filecoin yet?
Almost.
All right. So I wanted to get your reactions from the premise that Paul's laid out here for the audience.
I like what I'm hearing. It's a whole different take, and it's a lot more of a positive take also, because you can't sell if you're not positive about it yourself. So, I mean, if you're all the time saying this is not working and this is not working, that might be very well the case. When I started out in open source in the 90s, Linux wasn't all that great, but it conquered your Unix world by miles. So, and it's still evolving, and that applies to our technology as well. There's never going to be a finished product. So I like that idea, and we need a positive and solution-oriented attitude to that. What I'm wondering is, do you speak French by now?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I have the scars. I mean, in fact, I spent 2 years at this customer. When they used to get angry, they would try to swear in French. Yeah. Sorry, they would try to swear in English. But I would actually prefer that they swear in French so that I actually learned something from the exchange. Yeah. So this stuff, it wasn't working at all. So if they were going to have a go at me, I'd rather they did it in French so at least one of us learned something. Yeah. So yes, I do speak French.
Obviously, this is a deviation from the content, but okay, I want to throw it in. But no, so great ideas.
On peut parler plus tard, hein, on peut traduire ça en français. Il n'y a pas de problème pour moi.
Ça va. Autrefois. So.
Paul, your comment reminds me of my favorite Matrix line. Cursing in French is like wiping your ass with silk. Anyways,
I can give it a go right now if you like, but that may not be appropriate right now.
Paul, I think you made this comment before we started the webinar for today, but you made a comment that may be controversial, maybe not to some people on this call, but you don't care about the Filecoin price. Why is that, and how does that relate to your call to action to the community?
Okay, so the Filecoin, there's a great film called Crocodile Dundee, yeah, and there are two fleas arguing about who owns the dog, and I just thought that was a fantastic metaphor for understanding what matters. So when it comes to the Filecoin price, yeah, I understand the people who joined early, they've got investors, they will have issues. I have empathy for people who have made investments, yeah. But if we look at the long term, if we look at where things are going, if we look at the utility of Filecoin, if we look at the growth path of data, every 2 years we're going to double, yeah. So we're talking about petabytes, zettabytes. We're looking at an unbelievable scale, yeah. And actually, for this to work, we have to get people to pay us fiat, yeah. It's an island economy. Can we really ever survive on the price of Filecoin? And I don't think so. I think we're going to have to be paid in some way that is not going to be Filecoin. We're providing a valuable service. If people are prepared to pay for storage on Amazon, on Google, if they're prepared to pay dollars to build bridges, to lay fiber optics, why wouldn't they pay to store data? When data is the most critical thing to any company, why wouldn't you pay for that? Yeah, it just seems to me beyond logic that people wouldn't pay for their most important assets. So I just see the token as a way of doing micropayments to deal in tiny amounts of currency that allows us to do really interesting things. Yeah, tiny little payments so that we can share data with an organization. I think the future business models are just going to blow us away. Yeah, and we can only do that because of the number of decimal places that we can achieve in Filecoin. You just cannot do it in dollars or pounds or shillings or whatever. Yeah, that's the personal view. I know that's going to probably upset a few people, but I just think if we look at the bigger picture, the opportunities for growing the storage, for the compute over data, you know, some amazing things are coming along. I discovered World ID the other day. You can just imagine how that's going to fit into Filecoin, yeah? Having our data preserved, all this kind of stuff, yeah?
As you follow some people in the data space, there's some real thought leaders out there. And I tend to gravitate to the ones that say, what if we're dramatically underestimating the amount of data that's being created? I've seen all the forecasts, this much data by 2025, this much data by 2027. What if we're undercutting those estimates by, a third? What if it's like, what if we're way below the mark? And that's a really interesting question. And frankly, when you look at ChatGPT, did not exist when these forecasts were made. And we're still trying to understand what a machine like a car or an IoT device can do from a data generation perspective when working with something like AI. Like I don't know if we've paid enough attention to the potential top line growth. And when I go, I always go back to 2007. I was in graduate school at the time, and our whole class of business school students we did an exercise on what's the value of Apple now that the iPhone was released. And I think, the most lofty expectation for Apple at the time, with 200 graduate students was, maybe $80 for Apple stock. Because no one could understand what was coming with the iPhone, how much of a game changer it would be. And that's what disruptive innovation is all about. And I don't think we're all still grappling with what AI is going to be. Paul, I know we have a big conversation with AI and Filecoin next week in Las Vegas for Phil Vegas, but I know you can't attend, and we're all disappointed that we won't be able to see you there. But I'd love to get your take on where do you see AI and Filecoin intersecting, and how should people translate your vision like that, your insights into an opportunity?
Okay, let me tell you another story. I have a friend who used to work for CERN, and he told me, this was a few years back, that they broke TCP/IP. Yeah, so a major protocol for transferring files from A to B, and they broke that a few years ago. So we're coming to the point where data is doubling every 2 years. It's going to be impossible to ship data from, say, Paris to London. It's just not going to be possible. We're going to break the laws of physics. We're not going to be able to fill enough trucks with movable disks. So instead of shipping the data around the place, it'd be easier to ship the algorithms. Yeah. So that's where I see the power of compute over data. So that will be the business case, I think, which will explode the use of Filecoin and the ability to do micropayments, to do a little lookup on a piece of data, do a calculation, and actually find a way of paying for that. So I just think those use cases are there, and they will come simply because of the scale that's in front of us.
I always love challenging people with this question. I'd love to get your take on this as well. If we're sitting on a call 5 years from today, and the statement is, I'm so glad I joined Filecoin when I did. What has happened over those 5 years that would make that statement true for you?
Okay, I think yeah, there's obviously an element of the business side, yeah, but that is not really where my interest lies. So I'm also a futurist. I look into the future, and I see the democratization. I see the commons, all those sorts of things that the thinkers of Protocol Labs are into. So I see work around privacy, securing our own data. I see a better future for humanity. Yeah. And at the same time, we're going to have huge, undescribable amounts of data. But I see the endpoint being a flourishing of humanity, a positive case. So we're not talking about the Terminators. We're talking about people coming together, developing ways of managing privacy and coming up with the ethics of it. So that's I see a very, very positive future, and Filecoin and the technologies that go around it are enablers for that. Yeah, we're literally breaking away from the Amazons and the Googles. That's already a great start as far as I'm concerned.
Paul, we got a lot of potential entrants into the ecosystem, a lot of new entrants, and even some seasoned players on the call today. But for those just getting started or curious about getting started, what advice would you give them based on your experience for entering the ecosystem?
Yeah, funny you should say that, but I did actually write something on Reddit. Someone was asking about questions. So if you go looking for Reddit, I've written something. My handle is Paulie Data, I think it is. And so what I would say is, don't worry about the cryptocurrency. Yeah, if you do the right thing, if you put your customers first, build relationships, then everything else will follow. Right, that assumes you don't make any mistakes. We all make mistakes. But if you go into it for the right reasons, if you've got the passion for where this will take you, everything else will follow.
And connect to the community, like you said earlier. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Communication is at the heart of all of this. Yes. Yeah. I've already said a lot about what Picnic are doing and some of the individuals there, but absolutely, there are others who give their time. I don't know how they find the time to do it. Always responding, always giving advice. There are some stars on Slack. Amazing people.
So we got a question in the chat. When can I apply for the Filecoin Storage Provider Accelerator Program? You can apply anytime. So we have a link. We will drop it in the chat here. Let me just click it, and voila. And we'll go back to the show. I'll put it in the chat. You can always register. We do sessions every quarter. We have a big one next week in Las Vegas. I think you can at least come and check it out if you haven't done so already. Phil Vegas, we're inviting ecosystem participants from across the globe, and it's going to be focused on a lot of the things that Paul is talking about. How do you position yourself for exponential data growth, specifically coming from the AI industry? How do you focus on getting that message out, working with the resources provided by Distora? Distora is all about enabling the community to sell storage and to get clients on board, because that's what's going to be most sustainable for your business, support your cash flows, support your longevity within the ecosystem. So we can put a registration to Phil Vegas in the chat as well. Hopefully we see you there. But if not, ESPA is ongoing and happens in Vegas every quarter. So I think the next one is scheduled for either January or February of next year if you can't make next week. Bob.
Yes,
Final
sir.
Final questions for Paul before we get him out of here today.
Well, I have a final observation, not so much a question, but I mean, I said it before. I like your positivity, in all the turbulence that we're living in specifically in the crypto space. Sometimes it can be very daunting or very overwhelming, and it's all negative, and it shouldn't be like that. I mean, don't focus on a unfinished product. Don't focus on a downward token price. Focus on the value proposition that we're bringing. Get that message across. Mingle with like-minded people in the network, and go find those sneezers. I will remember the term sneezers with the winter coming up.
100%. Paul, final thought for the day. If you could leave our audience with one last final piece of advice or insight, what would it be?
Okay, let me take you back to that customer in France. They paid for it heavily. I got the scars, yeah, but they could see the future. It was clear to them. They had the vision. And in the end, last time I checked, they became one of the biggest printing companies in France. Yeah, and it's because, as Bob was saying, there was a lot of negativity. They could have given up. I mean, they roasted the American CEO at the time. It was painful, but they could see the world was changing. Do you want to be in the new world, or do you just want to die? Because that's what it comes down to. Stay in the old path. If you look at the printing industry now, it's been wiped out. It's like an old cottage industry. It's been wiped out. It's all digital. It's a new way of operating. So if you can have that vision, stay the course. Yeah, that's what I would say. Then everything else will come together.
All right, Paul, you said it all. You can
Thank you.
find Paul on Slack. You can find Paul on LinkedIn. He is active. I highly recommend some of his blogs on LinkedIn. I think you can get a sense for how he thinks and that he is, taking his own medicine and getting the message out. Paul, we look forward to seeing you in the community, in the calls, and on the streets. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you all for joining this month's episode of 0 to 1. Stay tuned next week where we dive into how to drive customer demand with RealSpot founder Juan Manuel Gachagare. I think hopefully I didn't pronounce his name wrong, but Juan's a really interesting character on how he's bringing Filecoin to South America and doing quite well with it. Thank you all for joining. See you next week. Hope to see you in Vegas. Bye, everyone.